the tip of the pencil pressed into the grain of the paper, carving out the sharp jawlines of two figures back to back.
Sammy kept his head down.
Rhythmic scratching filling the small space between his desk and the window. Sunlight pooled across the wood, turning the graphite dust into a faint, shimmering haze. He paused to shade a broad silhouette, his grip tightening until his knuckles turned pale. Outside, the morning was still. Behind him, a chair scraped softly against the floor. Mira slid into the seat, her presence immediate and warm.
She leaned over, eyes tracing the lines of the drawing.
Sammy did not look up. He kept his focus on the page, his breath shallow. One day, I want to be as brave as them,
he whispered, the words barely clearing his lips. Mira reached out,
tapping the center of the paper with her index finger. "You have the heart for it, Sami," she said,
her voice steady against the quiet room. "You just need to let it show." Sammy finally lifted his gaze, the pencil still poised in his hand. As the sunlight shifted across his desk, the heavy door swung open, and the silence of the classroom vanished.
The hallway was a tunnel of hard surfaces and sharp echoes. Sammy took 3 steps before a weight slammed into his left shoulder. He stumbled, his feet tangling, and the notebook flew from his grip. It skidded across the linoleum,
hitting the base of a locker with a hollow thud. 3 classmates blocked the path,
their shadows stretching long over the floor. One of them pointed at the fallen pages, letting out a sharp,
jagged laugh that bounced off the walls. Sammy froze. His hands hovered in the air, fingers twitching, his heart hammering against his ribs. He looked at the notebook, then at the hard faces in front of him,
and felt the space around him tighten. Mira stepped forward, her jaw locked, her fists clenched at her sides. She opened her mouth to speak, but the leader of the group stepped into her path, sneering. They jeered again, their words harsh and rhythmic, before turning their backs and walking away.
The sound of their footsteps faded into the distance. Sammy stayed rooted to the spot,
his breath hitching, his fingers trembling as he reached toward the floor to reclaim his scattered work.
The playground tree cast long, jagged shadows over the grass. Sami sat with his knees pulled to his chest,
hugging his backpack as if it were a shield. Shield dayed. The wind rattled the gnarled branches above, a dry, persistent sound that matched the tension in his jaw. If we say nothing, maybe they will leave us alone,
he said, his voice brittle. Mira shook her head, her eyes fixed on the distant school building. Ignoring them does not fix the hurt, Sammy. Kindness is not the same as weakness. He didn't answer, his knuckles white against the bag straps. Later, in the quiet of his room, the house felt too large and too still. He stared at the wall where his old sketch hung. The figures looked small, fragile. He pulled a fresh sheet of paper onto his desk and picked up his pencil. He didn't draw them running. He drew them standing firm, a wall of stone against a rising storm. His hand moved with a new, deliberate pressure, carving lines that refused to fade. He watched the graphite tip bite into the fiber, realizing that bravery was not about being the loudest in the room. It was about refusing to let the truth be buried under silence. He set the pencil down, his gaze fixed on the new image, his breathing slow and even. The hallway was cold, the air thin and sharp. The same boy stepped into Sami's path, his movement sudden and practiced.
He knocked the books from Sammy's hands, the heavy thud ringing against the tile floor.
Pages scattered, sliding into the dust. Sammy stared at his work, the lines he had drawn with such care now smudged on the linoleum.
He took a long, slow breath, felt the air fill his lungs, and closed his eyes for a heartbeat.
He stood up straight, his spine locking into place. When he opened his eyes, he did not look at the floor.
He met the bully's gaze, his own eyes, steady and clear. "You do not have the right to treat us this way," Sammy said, his voice ringing out, stripped of any tremor. "We will not accept this anymore."
Mira moved, closing the distance to stand firmly at his side, her presence a solid weight. Respect is for everyone, she added. The hallway seemed to hold its breath. A student from the back row stepped forward, then another. They did not speak, but their movement was a declaration. They formed a wall of support behind Sammy, their faces turned toward the bully. The smirk on the boy's face faltered, then vanished as he looked at the growing circle of peers, his posture shrinking as the power in the corridor shifted definitively. The teacher rounded the corner, taking in the scene with a calm, discerning gaze. Sami explained the events with precise, measured words. His tone lacked anger, yet held an authority that silenced the corridor. The teacher spoke briefly to the class about the courage required to protect one another. The bullies, their bravado gone, bowed their heads and approached Sami. "We were wrong," one murmured. Sami offered a simple, firm nod. By the end of the week, the school had changed.
Posters for Respect Week lined the walls, and Sammy pinned his drawing to the central bulletin board, a symbol of a new tradition. As he and Mira walked through the courtyard, the air felt lighter. "I think I finally found my voice," Sami said, a genuine smile breaking across his face. Mira nudged his arm, her expression bright. "It was always there, Sami. You just had to choose to use it."